Car designers spend years studying automotive design and pour hours and hours of work and effort into what would become concept cars. Concept cars are normally some of the most radical designs that can be found in the car industry, since designers are given free rein to showcase their creative freedom. These concept cars are also the basis of the company's overall design theme, but when these cars finally hit the market, the design has been watered down by bean counters and other practical considerations. Well, it seems that for Maxus, one car got away and kept most of its radical design elements. This is the Maxus D60 Elite, and in this video, we get to review it and drive it. Let's do this! Hello guys, I'm Reagan and welcome back to another car review. If you're new to my channel, I hope you click that subscribe button and become part of the Reagan Strides family. If you're my subscriber already, thank you so much for your support. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. I also hope that you click that like button. Also, special thanks to Maxus Philippines for lending us the D60 Elite to do this awesome review. There are only a few 7-seater crossovers below 1.5 million Philippine pesos that can deliver the same level of shock and awe that this Maxus D60 Elite does. I mean, look at this thing. To say that it's unique is an understatement. Now, the Maxus D60 Elite has features that go beyond its good looks, and all for a steal. You see, this top-spec Maxus D60 Elite has a retail price of only 1,258,000 Philippine pesos, and you can check it out in all Maxus dealers nationwide. Now, 1,200,000 pesos and change is a pretty good value for a 7-seater crossover that's already as big as a Toyota Fortuner. So let's see what we get or don't get in this crossover. The Maxus D60 Elite has been tagged the most beautiful car from Maxus, and looking at its front fascia, it's quite easy to see why. This has concept car written all over it. Now, for some reason, this front mug reminds me of all things Godzilla. It's probably these LED DRLs that are mounted up top, and they're designed in such a way that they look like reptilian eyes. These LED DRLs also double as your turn signals, and it has a triple LED unit and even an LED light strip on top that looks like eyebrows. Now, couple these LED DRLs that look like eyes with this gaping front bumper. It looks like a front maw, like a mouse, filled with teeth, and it really gives it that animalistic look to it. Now, this wild-looking front fascia looks like a predator that's about to gobble up the smaller city cars and budget crossovers out there on the road. Now, to complement this look, the D60 also has this muscular and bulging hood with all of these lines that some people might even think looks a bit on the chunky side. Now, to break off that chunkiness, Maxus threw in a couple of fake hood vents up top just to break off the vastness of this hood. Now, normally, I'm not a fan of fake hood vents, but since they serve a design purpose, well, I'll just have to give it a pass. Now, when you look at the front bumper, you'll see that we have the LED headlights found here, and some people might think that's a bit low for this car, but I've driven this at night and even in the rain, and it's no problem after all. The concept car look of the Maxus D60 Elite continues on with its side profile because it got these body lines, creases, and hunches that when it all comes together makes this midsize crossover look sleeker despite its size. Now, one design cue that I am so fond of with this D60 Elite are the roof rails. You see, you get these matte aluminum roof rails here, but I love how they neatly integrate into that aluminum trim that can be found in the D-pillar and continues all the way down to the bottom part here on the window trim. Now, that is really awesome, guys, and if you pair it with this striking orange color, which Maxus calls competitive orange, you've got a mid-size crossover that will surely turn heads on the road. Now, the top-spec Maxus D60 Elite comes with power folding side mirrors with LED turn signals, and we also get a pair of step boards that are mounted right here underneath the doors. Now, this should make it easier for the elderly or smaller kids to get in and out of the Maxus D60. The doors also give off a very satisfying thud when you open and close them, and that is also a good thing. Now, the top-spec D60 Elite comes with 18-inch wheels, and these wheels are wrapped in 235/55 R18 tires. Now, take a quick peek inside those wheels, and you'll see red painted brake calipers, which does absolutely nothing to improve on its overall braking performance. However, the Maxus D60 Elite comes equipped with 4-wheel disc brakes, which should be more than enough to stop this midsize crossover. Now, the suspension bits is also a good surprise because we get MacPherson systems in the front and an independent multi-link rear suspension at the back. Now, that should translate to a much better ride than the other torsion beam setups out there in the market. The ground clearance of the D60 Elite stands at 180 millimeters, which I must admit is a bit on the low side for a mid-size crossover. Now, if the front end of the D60 is striking, the rear also deserves a second look. Now, this has a huge LED light bar here. I don't really want to call it a light strip because this thing is really huge. And when you see it at night, the effect is ridiculous, guys. It's bonkers. Now, this LED light bar also gets a crystal-like design inside it, which shows you the attention to detail that Maxus gives to these things. Now, we have a bold Maxus logo here, and when you take your eyes down to the rear bumper, you see that there's a lot of things going on there. We've got a glossy piano black finish up top the rear bumper. We also got some plastic cladding here in the middle and a matte aluminum finish at the bottom part. Now, we do get a pair of functional exhaust pipes there, which is something that I didn't really expect from a mid-size crossover, a budget mid-size crossover, but well, I'm happy to see it there. Now, there's also a prank here for mall security guards, because when they try to open this liftgate, there's really no button found here. Instead, the button has been integrated here underneath your rear window wiper, which, to be perfectly honest, guys, I don't really see why they did that, because they could have just put the button here and make it work like everyone else. So you just push this button here and pop open the trunk. Now, when you pop open the trunk, you'll see that the D60 Elite is a 7-seater. This is the 7-seater variant of the range in the country. The base model Pro is a 5-seater. But with the third row in use, you'll see that you get only a paltry 170 liters of trunk space. Now, my medium-sized luggage is already there and it fits, but that would sacrifice on the seating position of the people in the third row. It's already quite a bit of a torture already to be stuck in the third row of this thing, but with the luggage behind them, it's going to be even more torture. Now, definitely you'll need more space than 170 liters, so you could always tumble down these third row seats, and that will give you 900 liters of cargo capacity, which is not really the class leader. So if space is a huge priority for you, you might as well go for the MPV brother of the D60, the Maxus G50. The Maxus D60 Elite has the same engine and drivetrain as the MPV sibling, the Maxus G50. As such, we get a 1.5-liter 4-cylinder turbo petrol engine that puts out 167 horses and 250 Newton meters of torque. Now, we also get a 7-speed dry-type dual-clutch transmission here that powers the front wheels. Now, during the week that I've had this Maxus D60 Elite, well, my fuel consumption averaged around 8 kilometers per liter in the city and 13 kilometers per liter on the highway. Now, I know that those are not the most stellar fuel economy figures, but considering that this is a mid-size crossover, plus the fact that I have a heavy gas foot and I don't really do fuel economy runs, well, 8 and 13 are actually pretty decent. While the D60 Elite shares the same platform as its MPV sibling, the G50, the cockpit area of this D60 crossover feels a bit snugger. It's probably because of the smaller dashboard that we have here versus the MPV sibling, and the fact that it kind of wraps around me a bit better. Now, having said that, guys, the materials in the cockpit are all soft touch and premium materials, pretty similar to the G50 MPV. We get leather wrapped seats here, but the leather quality is more similar to the middle spec variant of the G50 in the country, which is aptly called the G50 Elite as well. Now, the design of the leather seats are similar to that MPV, and we also get red contrast stitching here. Now, the design itself is really good, and for an average Asian like myself, we get a good perfect amount of bolstering on the thighs and on the sides of the body, so this thing is quite comfortable and it held me really well. Now, when you look at the steering wheel, you get a leather-wrapped steering wheel here with a flat bottom, and we also have cruise control and hands-free connectivity. Pretty standard already in these crossover offerings. Now, the wheel, though, only adjusts for tilt, and it doesn't telescope, which tells you more of its, well, budget nature. Now, when you look at the instrument gauge cluster here, we have a combination of analog and digital gauges. We've got an analog tach and speedo in a format that can be found in some European brands. We also get a large 7-inch colored multi-information display in the middle that shows you your vital vehicle information. Now, the infotainment system and the climate control system could have been great, but fell a little bit short. You see, the Maxus D60s in mainland China get a full iPad-style touchscreen display panel here that is voice-activated, voice-controlled, and it even has a semi-autonomous driving, self-parking features, etc. And man, you know, this thing feels like a cop-out. You know what we're getting here? It feels like a cop-out. You see, we only get a downgraded 8-inch touchscreen infotainment system that doesn't even have Apple CarPlay, it doesn't have Android Auto, it doesn't even have smartphone mirroring, and it only has Bluetooth connectivity. So that's a bit of a bummer. Now, the D60 Elite also comes with a reverse camera, no 360-degree view camera here, but the image quality of that reverse camera, man, yeah, it's straight out from the dark ages. Now, I mentioned dark ages because the image quality is literally dark. During daytime, like now, the way this is angled, the glare means that you could hardly see the image when you're backing out. Now, when you try to park this on a rainy night, yeah, this thing is practically useless. The image quality is so dark you couldn't really see anything. However, when you go down to the climate control system, you will have here the most beautiful looking manual climate control system. Now, this thing sure fooled me, guys, because I thought that this was a fully automatic touchscreen climate control system, but no. Despite that fancy display, it's got some physical buttons here that help operate your manual climate control. Now, another pet peeve of this climate control system is that it takes several seconds to open once you start the car. So let's say you're parked under the hot sun on an open parking area. You get in your car, you turn on your engine, and you're trying to turn on the air conditioning, climate control. It's not turning on. It will take like 4 to 5 seconds before it actually turns on and cools down your cabin. That's a bit of a bummer for me, but that's what we have here. Now, I might seem like I'm being a little bit too harsh on this Maxus D60 Elite, but looking at the design of this iPad-style center stack here, it just reminds me of what we're missing out, of what they're getting in mainland China and what we're not getting here in the Philippines. You see, yeah, this could have been really great, guys. Yeah, but, well, this is, well, considered the top-spec variant of the D60, the Elite, but the price level is, well, it gives a little bit more headroom. So it's probably a possibility that Maxus Philippines might bring in a higher variant of the Maxus D60. Maybe they'll call it the Maxus D60 Plus. and it might have a panoramic sunroof, because this thing doesn't have a panoramic sunroof, and it might even have all of those high-tech bits that I mentioned that they have in China. Well, who knows? It's probably a possibility. Now, moving forward, guys, we have here your usual shifter. This is not a joystick, this is an actual shifter. That's also, for me, that's a bit of good news. I mean, lesser things to break. But we also have here an electronic parking brake with an auto hold feature. Now, there is a button here that turns off traction control, and this is one of my most favorite buttons, which I will explain to you a little bit later during the drive impressions. Now, we also have a couple of squarish looking cup holders here, which we will subject to our clean canteen test. This is my clean canteen, put it there. It fits, but it doesn't go all the way in, so this is still a pass, but marginally, it passes marginally. Now, another reminder that, yeah, we're not really getting all the specs or all the features of the Maxus D60 here in the Philippines, even in this top spec variant, is this pad right here behind the cup holder. You see, in the G50, this is supposed to be a wireless charging pad. But even in this top of the line Maxus D60 Elite, this is just a pad. There's no wireless charging there. And my cell phone's about to run out of juice, but I don't have any cables. So yeah, tough luck. Now, despite that lack of tech, guys, I'm happy to see that this top-spec D60 Elite still comes with really fancy and premium materials. You see, for a budget mid-size crossover for its size, I'm quite surprised that we get an actual leather-wrapped dashboard here. The top of the dashboard is leather-wrapped, the middle of the dashboard has leather, it's just the lower part that's made of plastic. The same can be said for the door cards. The tops and middle part of the door cards are all wrapped in leather. Even the sides of your center tunnel is wrapped in red stitch leather right there. So that is also a really cool touch. The good thing here is the fit and finish. It's also pretty good. It's not something that you'd expect, let's say, from a vehicle from China at this price level. But yes, the fit and finish is really good. And this media unit isn't even a brand new car. I mean, it's got like close to 3,000 kilometers on the clock. So yeah, there's no creaks and rattles inside. That's also always a good thing, guys. Now, the second row seats of the Maxus D60 Elite is quite spacious for a mid-size crossover. I'm 5'6", guys, and as you can see, this is my driving position, and I've got a good 8 inches of knee room and around 7 inches of headroom. Now, that's only because there's no passengers at the back on the third row. But if there are passengers in the third row and you're feeling a little bit charitable, well, then you can always adjust the seat forward, and that should give some much needed legroom and breathing space for the third row passengers. However, my space here, my knee room here, also shrinks down to around 5 inches, which is still quite tolerable. Now, for toys, we do get dual rear AC vents here. We also have a USB charging port and also a 12-volt power outlet. Now, let's hop over to the third row seats and see if I can actually fit there. The third row seats of the Maxus D60 Elite is serviceable for short trips only. As I mentioned, at 5'6", guys, I feel a little bit cramped here. Now, if the second row passengers would feel a bit more charitable, they can slide their seats forward, and that will give them a reduced leg room of around 4 inches there, and that should give me around 2 inches of knee room here in the third row. So it's serviceable maybe for people who are smaller than me, or for kids, this would actually do. However, we don't really get too much toys here. There aren't any cup holders found here, and we only have a solo USB charging port. There's also no AC vents here at the back, so it could get a little bit warm here, especially since we live in a tropical country. Now, before I get a cramp in this third row, let's hop back to the driver's seat and take this Maxus D60 Elite out for a drive. Alright, so we're now driving the Maxus D60 Elite, and the first stop, the visibility. Well, despite being priced like a subcompact crossover, this Maxus D60 Elite is in fact a mid-size crossover, and it feels like it. That muscular bulging hood can easily be seen in front of me, And that's actually quite a good thing. It makes me feel like I'm driving a much bigger car, similar to, let's say, the Toyota Land Cruiser Prado. Yeah, it has that feeling of heft when I'm driving this thing, and I like that. I like that in my SUVs and my crossovers, because it doesn't make me feel like I'm a wimp on the road. The steering feel is in fact quite good, and for the price that you're paying for, the budget crossover space, this is in fact one of the better steering feels out there. You see, the Maxus D60 has a pretty light feel when you're going around in parking lot speeds, going around the mall parking area. But when you go up to highway speeds, like it starts at around 80 kilometers per hour, yeah, this thing just stiffens up in terms of heft, gives you a good amount of control while you're on the highway, and I like that. In fact, it kind of reminds me of the electric power assist systems that are found in, let's say, the Volkswagens that are sourced from China, the ones that I've reviewed in the past. It is actually quite decent. It's actually quite good. Some of the better steering feels in the market, especially at the price that you're paying for this Maxus D60. Now, the suspension of the D60 Elite is tuned more towards the comfort side. It's really in the comfort side. See, I'm going around this roundabout. See, we're going around this roundabout, and there is body lean. There's a lot of body roll going on. See, I'm taking this a bit faster than normal, and there is a significant amount of body roll. Now, you're not going to take this thing out to the mountains to do some canyon carving. That is not the life purpose of the Maxus D60 Elite. The good thing there is because of that softly tuned suspension, well, this thing is quite comfortable. Since we have an independent multi-link rear suspension setup here in the D60, this rides really comfortable, not really pillowy soft like some of the, let's say, some of the minivans or the crossovers from American brands. But yes, there is still that floaty feeling that you're getting from the D60 Elite. It's not going to return, razor sharp handling, but who cares, man? This thing is really built for relaxed driving duties. Now, speaking of relaxed driving duties, well, the D60 Elite is equipped with a 7-speed dry-type dual-clutch transmission. Now, if you're not used to a DCT, you might find this transmission a little bit frustrating. You see, when you're used to a CVT or an automatic transmission, you just step on the pedal and you could expect your car to go. A DCT or a dual clutch transmission will not work that way. If you try to mash on that gas pedal, this thing will jerk and it will feel unrefined. So there has to be some adjustments to be done on your gas foot. Now, what sort of adjustments are we talking about? That means that your throttle input should be smooth, light, and linear. It shouldn't be herky-jerky, because that would result to this thing being confused. And it does that a lot, especially when you're thinking that you're driving an automatic transmission. This, being a dual clutch transmission, requires smooth and refined inputs from your gas foot. Now, when it comes to the driving performance of this Maxus D60, well, it does have an eco mode that is integrated into its normal drive mode. So when you let off the gas pedal, eco mode engages, which helps you save more on your fuel. It also has a sport mode, and in sport mode, it holds the revs longer and higher, and it gives you the goods. But I did notice that at the top end of the rev range, this thing tends to lose its breath, which is not really a surprise because, well, this is still a small engine displacement of only 1.5 liters, and it is still carrying a pretty heavy body. Now, in highway speeds, 80 kilometers per hour or higher, well, the NVH levels, there is a hint of highway noise coming into the cabin, a little bit there, but it's not really that offensive, so that's also good, considering that this is still a budget mid-size crossover. Overall, guys, the Maxus D60 Elite is a comfortable cruiser of a crossover. It's got a really comfortable cabin, and once you get the hang of that dry dual clutch transmission by making adjustments to your throttle input, it is quite smooth when it comes to its driving. And well, imagine if we did get the high-tech bits and features that the D60 in China got. Wow, I'm really excited for that, guys, and I really hope that Maxus Philippines decides to bring that in, because that would be an absolute game changer in this price segment. The Maxus D60 Elite shows off the type of design prowess that Maxus is fully capable of, because this is a stunner of a crossover. Had we gotten those high-tech bits that can be found in the Maxus D60s in China, then this would have been a game changer in the value crossover space. It is still a good effort for the price, but it still falls short of outstanding. Anyway, thanks for watching.